Smackdown on Friday night. I was not around to watch it live because of my House of Glory obligations, so I didn't get a chance to do a stream. So you get my thoughts on it now. Not as good as Raw. I'm kind of in the middle on it because they did a good job of establishing the post-Summerslam directions for the top names. I love the first interaction between CM Punk and Kevin Owens. That was the highlight of the show. Outside of that weak shove that Owens gave him at the end of it. And the same with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. That was not as good, but I still liked it. And they introduced Tatum Paxley to the main roster, which will make all the Tatum fans happy. Probably less so the other women in that division, seeing as how they already have too many women on the SmackDown roster sitting in the back collecting dust like antique artifacts. They also only had 3 matches on the show. They had a grand total of 30 minutes of wrestling on this 2-hour show, compared with 50 minutes of wrestling on Monday, which has the extra half hour of airtime. But the matches on Raw actually got more time than a lot of the matches at SummerSlam did. One of those matches on Friday was a rematch from SummerSlam with Baron Corbin defending his newly won United States Championship, which unfortunately still has the fucking fur on it. Defended that title again against Trick Williams, and they had Corbin go over on him again with a belt shot to the head. That's twice that they have had Baron Corbin pin Trick Williams. And then in the back later, Carmelo Hayes was able to finally find the building, and he jumped Corbin in the back. And those two were going to meet for the U.S. title in Boston this Friday, not far from where Melo grew up. Corbin, by the way, was advertised on last night's episode of MLW Fusion as defending his MLW tag team titles with Dijak against the Good Brothers on next week's episode. So that match was actually taped back in May. It's only airing now. No spoilers. I won't give away any spoilers. Don't worry. If you see a match graphic, by the way, floating around on social media that shows the U.S. title photoshopped on Corbin's other shoulder, someone else did that. That is not the graphic that aired on the actual MLW show last night. I had to go back and check it out myself just to make sure. And no, that did not air on the show. They would get a cease and desist so fast if that belt popped up on their show. Then we had Chelsea Green, who won the interim women's championship at SummerSlam. She was introduced on this show as the WWE Women's Champion, with no mention of the interim label. And I assume that's because Rhea Ripley just had surgery to repair her torn meniscus. She tried to avoid it. She felt it was the best course of action. So instead of her possibly being back in the ring any week now, the hope, supposedly, is that she might be back in time for the Royal Rumble. And if so, there's your early favorite to win the Royal Rumble. But she said, life update, after just 14 or just under 14 years in wrestling and doing sports my entire life, it's caught up to me. Surgery was never a first option for me, but it got to the point that it was needed. First one down, hopefully no more. I've survived, and now it's time to start thriving again so I can get back to what I love to do. See you all down the road. Chelsea was out there for her championship celebration, and she invited her friend Tiffany Stratton out to join her. And Tiffany said, look, I have something to talk to you about. But before she could say what that was, they were interrupted by Fatal Influence. And JC Jane said that if it wasn't for Tiffany, she would have been in the SummerSlam ladder match and she would have become the women's champion. So she's going to take something from Tiffany, that being her U.S. title. And Stratton said that she would give JC a shot at the title if Fatal Influence gave her and Chelsea a shot at the women's tag team titles right now. And JC accepted. Now, with Tiffany coming out and saying what she said here, that, hey, Chelsea, I have something I have to talk to you about. Are they teasing her wanting a shot at the title? If so, maybe we're looking at a Stratton heel turn soon, which I think would be the right move. Although now it may all be moot. More on that in a minute. This led to a tag team match, and I don't know that I can adequately put into words how counterproductive this was. Chelsea got caught with a rolling encore by JC, who was outside the ring, and she hit her from the floor. That led to Chelsea being picked up and nearly killed by the other two. They almost dropped her right on her fucking head. They dropped her with their fatal flaw finish. And Chelsea Green, the new women's champion, was pinned in the middle of the ring by Fallon Henley. Awful. Dreadful booking here. But that wasn't even the worst of it. As it turned out, Chelsea was injured, likely on the finish, although we don't know for sure where it happened. But she looked out of it. Some people thought maybe she got concussed. In fact, she was not concussed. She confirmed on her IG last night that she suffered a broken orbital bone in her face. She said, "I did get injured last night. Stuff happens. It's live television. It's wrestling. It's an occupational hazard. I ended up in the emergency room and I have a broken orbital bone. It looks amazing, all things considered. It feels awful, but it looks pretty amazing. I have no idea what that means for me. You know, usually you guys have seen me play into every single injury, but this feels different. This feels very different. It feels frustrating. I'm upset. I feel like if I didn't have bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. So I just need to take a little bit of time to process this and kind of heal from, obviously, the head trauma that's going on right now, and then we'll see what happens. We're just going to take it day by day. So world domination continues. We've just had a minor blip. Let's hope it's just a minor blip for her sake, because depending on the severity of it, or if she might need surgery, she could be looking at significant time out of the ring. If it's not that bad, maybe she only misses a few weeks of TV, and then she pops up with a face mask, right? Like the one that she used to wear when she had her broken nose. One of her many broken noses. Chelsea Green has broken her nose 5 times. And now she can add an orbital break to go with it. This woman does not need a regular face mask. She needs whatever the fuck Leonardo DiCaprio had on his face in The Man in the Iron Mask. That now makes 2 straight matches for Fatal Influence where one of their opponents suffered broken bones. And so now we are left with the Women's Championship in limbo once again after they just crowned an interim champion. We need an interim title for the interim title, which may not be interim anymore, but they never clarified it for us, so we don't even know. There never should have been a fucking interim title in the first place. Then Rhea had surgery. Chelsea Green, she should be the sole women's champion right now. And hopefully they don't take the belt off of her, because that would be terrible. You know, unless they get a really bad injury report and she's going to be gone for months and months, then they have no choice. Failing that, though, this does not need to be a deal breaker for Chelsea Green. Again, people have worked with orbital injuries and a protective mask. Rhea Ripley did that a couple of years ago heading into War Games. She also broke her orbital bone. Missed a few weeks, came back with a mask on. And they've already set a precedent with Jade Cargill and Liv Morgan going over the 100-day mark without defending their titles. So for the time being, Chelsea's title should be safe. And when she's ready to come back, Fallon Henley should be first in line for a title shot. Because they had Fallon Henley, one half of the women's tag team champions, pin the WWE women's champion. So that should earn her a title shot. But like her first match as champion, world champion, she gets pinned and injured in a tag team match. That's not a very good start to her reign. It's not a good start for her when she wins the world title in the very next show. They have Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill wrestling in the main event, and she's stuck in a mid-card tag team match and takes the losing pin. The booking is horrendous. And that tells you how seriously they view Chelsea Green as their women's champion. Everything about this was terrible. The other victim of fatal influence, Brie Bella, posted an update this week about her injury, saying her doctor says that she does not need surgery for her broken shoulder blade. She said the doctor was like, "It's really hard to break your scapula. No one does surgery on scapulas. If you really want it, there is one doctor that can do it, but honestly, it's like breaking your ribs in a way. You just wait until they slowly heal. And so that's what I have to do. I do want to say that it's nobody's fault. My injury, it's part of the business. I broke it on the stairs when I got the cannonball. But it was weird because when it happened, I instantly knew." And she said WWE officials did tell her to stay out of the match after she got hurt, but she insisted on staying in. She said she'll undergo x-rays every 2 weeks to monitor her recovery and will not begin physical therapy for another 2 weeks. She says she's out 3 to 6 months, but really it all depends on how her shoulder heals, so it's going to be a while. So for the time being now, based on the Nikki Bella video package that aired on Friday, we're getting a singles feud between Nikki Bella and Paige. Oh boy. Then in the main event, we got the first singles match between Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill. It wasn't great. Charlotte had the match won with a figure eight when Michin and B-Fab caused a distraction. This led to the return of Alexa Bliss and her Lily doll. And then the lights went out. And when they came back on, Tatum Paxley from NXT was standing on the top rope and wiped out both of them on the floor with a high crossbody. And then Charlotte wiped out Jade with a terrible-looking supernatural selection and pinned her. So they've introduced Tatum to the main roster as an ally of, I assume, Charlotte and Alexa, but at least Alexa, which is not a bad spot for her to be in at all. But here's what I don't understand. I don't understand the logic behind calling up even more women on SmackDown when they already have women in that division drowning with nothing to do. Blake Monroe still has not had a formal debut yet. Julia and Kiana James are floating face down, waiting for their bodies to be pulled out of the water. And then you got Jordan Grace. She's working a Psycho Sid benefit show in a few weeks that his son is hosting. At least it's for a good cause. It's to benefit local animal shelters, but she's certainly not doing anything on television these days. And now it appears that Lola Vice is following Tatum up from NXT. She said her goodbyes after losing to Kendall Gray in their NXT Underground match. They've already filed to trademark the term Vice City, which they can do because it's specific to pro wrestling. So that sounds like it would be for her. And if she gets called up, the belief is that she would probably end up on SmackDown because that's where Damian Priest is. And the two of them are an item. They're in a relationship and they try to keep couples together if they can. Doesn't always work out that way, but if that's what they intend to do, it's like, how many more people are they going to toss in there? You know, Sol Ruca is going to have a mystery partner on Raw tomorrow night against Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. That would be a better spot to debut Lola. I don't know if they'll do it, though. But until they can figure out how to make use of the women they already have on that show, stop adding new ones. But really, this show is all about the top two programs right now. CM Punk and Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Cody came out at the beginning of the show. He wanted Orton to face him in the ring. And he was very upset, as he should be, because Randy Orton cost him the WWE Championship last weekend. He got CM Punk instead. And Punk comes out, he says, "It sounds like you wanted to ask me a question because his name was invoked." And Cody asked, "Did you know? How you know?" That would have been great if he would have asked him that. No, he said, "Did you know about Orton's return?" And Punk said he knew nothing about Orton. And he goes, "Look, if you want to, you and me, we can two-man power trip this thing and go backstage and we could beat Orton's ass." And Cody declined. He said, "Look, I'll beat him up myself. Right now, the ring is yours." And he went to go leave. He was halfway down the aisle. And Punk said to him what Cody had said to Punk after WrestleMania all those many months ago, "Just say when." And at that moment, Kevin Owens comes out, and he had to pass Cody on his way to the ring. Cody actually handed the mic off to him. Obviously, the last time we saw Kevin Owens in this company, he and Cody, they were feuding for months over the championship. And we got the return of the Winged Eagle and all that. So they shared a stare down. Owens made his way to the ring, and finally, we're going to get this face-to-face, this face-off between Kevin Owens and CM Punk. And Owens walks right up to him, and they're actually talking shit off mic, so we can barely hear what they're saying before they finally started talking into the mic. Nick Aldis was there, and they were like, Owens is like, "Look, I told you that I would be professional about it. Just back off. It's okay. It's all good." Punk wanted to know if Owens wanted to wrestle, and Owens said, "That's all I've wanted to do. I spent 17 months on the sidelines wondering if I would ever be able to do this again." But he also said, over time, people have come up to him and said, "Oh, CM Punk, he's a changed man." Punk, though, was proving him right by offering Cody a shot over him because he's now the number one contender. And Owens called Punk an arrogant sociopath. Punk said, "I'm the best in the world. Some people don't like that, but I back it up every single time in the ring." And he talked about how you benefited from my arrogance. You benefited from the things that I've been through. When I came here, there were people calling me skinny fat. You think they were knocking down doors at the time to sign Kevin Owens, to sign someone like you to a WWE contract? He said Owens would be working a 9-to-5 job every day and working weekend indie dates without him, and that Owens should be grateful for him. And Owens said, you're right. But you also showed me what not to be. And he thanked Punk because it showed him how not to let this business turn him into a miserable piece of shit like Punk. And that's where Aldis and the officials came in, and Owens gave him a weak shove, which I didn't think was needed. The rest of this, though, I thought this was great. Now, I wouldn't say that it was heelish vibes from Punk so much as it was just Punk being Punk, right? The man's got a chip on his shoulder, and I love the part about him paving the way for people like Owens because he's not wrong. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson both, them getting over the way they did in WWE in the early 2010s, that is what paved the way for the company opening its doors to more independent talent, like Kevin Owens, like Sami Zayn, like Finn Balor. That whole black and gold era of NXT was littered with independent talents. And littered also with guys who, frankly, like them, at a different point in time, they never would have been hired. They would have been paid $500 to do jobs for the bigger stars. But the disdain that both men had for one another in this segment, more so Owens for Punk, came through very nicely here. I just love the idea, and I told you guys, I shared last week, for those who didn't know, the whole Ring of Honor t-shirt story from many years ago. That's as far back as the Heat goes. I don't know if there was other stuff since then. Obviously, Owens is good friends with the Young Bucks, and so maybe, he's got no love for Punk because of that. But the heat, supposed heat between them, or from Owens towards Punk, stems from that incident in Ring of Honor backstage in 2005. And I just love the idea of there being heat between them over Owens wearing a t-shirt in a Ring of Honor match over 20 years ago. And here we are. Punk even took, if you notice, Punk even took a little dig at what Owens was wearing when he got in the ring. I love it. But later on, Owens told Nick Aldis he wants his title match in Toronto on the August 21st episode of SmackDown. Toronto is also the place where Owens last wrestled. That was at Elimination Chamber last year when he beat Sami Zayn. The same Sami Zayn who later wanted Owens to admit here on this show that you screwed me when you returned at SummerSlam. Returning the way you did, you screwed me. You stole my title opportunity. I want an apology. And Owens gave him a half-hearted one. But he said, you would have done the exact same thing if you were in my shoes, okay? You would not have said no to that. And Sami told him, don't expect me to stop chasing what I want just because it happens to be what you want. An ominous threat there. I hate that we're probably getting Sami interfering in that match in some way. I would love to see them put the belt on Kevin Owens. I doubt that they will, but I would love to see it. How many opportunities has Owens had to become WWE champion? He's always fallen short. He's failed every single time. Whether it was against Cody, whether it was against Roman. Now he's going to get a shot against Punk, and it's only their first match. With any luck, we'll get more than one. I'm just saying, I would love it. I would love it if they surprised us with a title change on that show. But he already told Cody, just say when. That's probably the WrestleMania match next year, Punk and Cody running it back. But I do like that everything is revolving around the title. That's how it should be. Everyone wants to be the champion. Punk and Cody and Randy and KO and Sami, Gunther, wherever the hell he is. The Orton and Rhodes promo later in the show, it wasn't as good as this one. I still liked it well enough. Cody was all fired up. He was all pissed off, again, as he should be. Orton would not get in the ring to fight him, so they spoke from afar. And Cody said that you owe me an explanation for what you did at SummerSlam. Orton basically said, I don't owe you a damn thing. And he said, you asked for this. You gave me permission. This is going back before their WrestleMania match. You wanted the best version of Randy Orton. And he gave Cody the best version of himself at WrestleMania. And he got beat. But in that moment, I guess, the voices came back in his head. That's when he gave him the punt kick. And now he knows the worst version of Randy Orton is what he needs to be if he's ever going to win number 15. And he vowed to do whatever it takes to make sure that Cody is never WWE champion again. And Cody said he's no longer held to the standards of the WWE Championship. He no longer has to be the good guy. Because Orton is the last legend standing. Which is kind of true. I mean, think about it. John Cena's retired. AJ Styles is retired. Brock Lesnar is retired. Undertaker's long gone. Kane, Big Show, Jericho. I mean, those guys have been gone for years. It's down to Randy Orton. And he said that the only question left to answer is, who kills you? Because Orton used to be the legend killer. So who kills you? That last line was stone cold. I like that. Cody saying he no longer has to be the good guy indicates an attitude shift. Not necessarily a heel turn is coming, although it should. It's not, because I saw some people, before I even had a chance to watch the show, I just checked social media real quick after the HOG show, and people were like, oh, Cody's, he's going heel, or it's happening. And I'm like, that wasn't really my takeaway necessarily from this. I saw it as more of an attitude shift. This is not heel Cody, but if it gives him a harder edge and we get to see a different side of him, I'm all for it. The current version of Cody Rhodes just continuing to do what he's been doing is fucking boring. But now they get a second bite at the apple, these two, without Pat McAfee being involved. So I liked the key parts of SmackDown, but on the whole, a weaker show than the one we got on Monday.